It's good to be with y'all. Very honored that Greg would ask me to speak today. I spoke here in chapel. It's been about 8 years ago. You realize that, Greg? Nearly 8 years ago. And in 8 years, he's never asked me again to speak in chapel. Probably for good reason. The truth is, my talk that day rather sucked. It just wasn't very good. The good news is it only lasted 3 minutes. We were out of here like that, and everyone was glad. Shortest chapel in the history of Chapel of the Abiding Presence, I believe. It wasn't good, mostly because I was scared to death. My life was in transition. I was going from being a pastor at a church to being a pastor at a hospital. My life was in complete flux, and everybody that I worked with at the hospital, and then everyone that I was speaking to that day in chapel, had something, or they were in the process of getting something that I did not have, and to this day still do not have. And that is a college degree. I have no degree, no bachelor's degree, no master's degree. I got there. I was almost that close before I finished. But you see, I'm a Baptist. And we do things a little backwards, to be honest with you. And fact is, we will ordain anyone that wants to be ordained. You see, we have this tradition of what we call evidence of a call. In other words, you don't become a pastor, you are a pastor. You're born a pastor. There's this divine call on your life, and you can't hardly deny it. So you don't become a pastor. God chooses Baptist pastors. It would make you wonder why sometimes He's chosen so poorly. Nevertheless, we're chosen. So there I was, a young man. I started in church work at the age of 17. I've been on church staff ever since, ordained when I was 21, all of those things. And I've done fairly well. Here I am, director of pastoral care at a mid-sized, reputable healthcare facility. I earn a decent salary. I have a staff of 3 that answer to me and no one else. And I've managed to get to this place without ever having earned a master's degree and, in fact, never completed my undergraduate degree. And I'm 24 hours shy of earning that bachelor's degree, but I'm not there yet. And so at the age of 40, single again, with a daughter in college, slightly overweight, hair thinning a bit, I'm back in school, and I'm going to earn that degree. Right, Dr. Beck? Right. He has been encouraging me for years. If I understand correctly, that's why Greg asked me to even come today. As I was writing this last night, though, it occurred to me several times that when he asked me to do this, he was drinking a little bit. So he may regret it. We'll see. So here I am 8 years later. I'm standing before this assembly again. When I was here before, some of you were in junior high, but nevertheless, I was here in this place before this assembly. And I stood here with very little to say. And here I am 8 years later. And to be honest with you, I still don't have much to say. I've read this book. It was assigned to me this semester. Siddhartha said, I know nothing. I have nothing. I'll read you a little bit of that in a little bit. But I'm going to share 2 pieces of advice, just 2 words of advice, just some observations I've made while I've been here. 2 observations, the first of which is this. When you're in class and your professor gives you a reading assignment, he gives you a book to read like this one or maybe another one, classic piece of literature, whatever it is, when you're given that assignment, here's my advice. Read the damn book. That's pretty simple, isn't it? My daughter was home one weekend, and I was showing her that I'd made an A on my papers and on my exam, and And I was showing her my notes and my books that were all underlined. And she goes, "Oh, Daddy." She said, "You're not that guy, are you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" "Oh, that old guy in the class that's always asking questions and taking notes." And I said, "Yeah, baby, I'm that guy, you know." And she said, "Oh, that's too bad." But I told her, I said, "No, baby," I said, "read the book. You got to read the book." I was at my parents' home not long ago. I was looking for something upstairs in my old bedroom, and I came across something. I came across a stack of little yellow and black books that were written by some guy named Cliff. You know who I'm talking about. My Cliff Notes, Beowulf, Homer's Odyssey, the Iliad, Wuthering Heights, all of those, there they all were. Reminders of these great works of literature that I had been supposed to read. Did I read them? No. I did not read them. Of course not. I read the Cliff Notes. What do the Cliff Notes give you? The Cliff Notes give you just what you need to pass the test, right? To write the paper. They give you just what you need. And that was all I was interested in at the time, doing just enough, getting by. I was at the University of Mary Hardin Baylor for about 3.5 years. And I worked hard while I was there, and I maintained a solid 2.5 grade average. That's what I needed to keep my scholarship. And so I kept that to 5. It was good enough. In fact, you could say that even though for me it has actually worked out pretty well, I don't recommend doing what I've done. Trying to get this far in life without an education. Formal education. As Willie Nelson said, it's in the cities of the nation that he earned his education. But it was good enough. And it's worked out fairly well, but it could be said that I've lived sort of a Cliff Note version of the life that I might have been able to live. I haven't processed that thought fully, but I know this, that for the rest of my life, I am going to read the damn book cover to cover and try to understand it and try to explain it. Dr. Beck assigned this, Siddhartha. I was supposed to read this years ago and never did. Hermann Hesse. Let me read you this. This is after Siddhartha's fairly far along on his journey. He's already met Kamala and Gautama and all these others. And here he is, and he says, "Now he thought that all these transitory things have slipped away from me again. I stand once more beneath the sun, as I once stood as a small child. Nothing is mine. I know nothing. I possess nothing. I have learned nothing. How strange it is. Now when I am no longer young, when my hair is fast growing gray, when strength begins to diminish. Now I am beginning again like a child." He had to smile again. Yes, his destiny was strange. He was going backwards, and now he again stood empty and naked and ignorant in the world, but he did not grieve about it. No, he even felt a great desire to laugh at himself, to laugh at this strange, foolish world. "Things are going backwards with you," he said to himself, and he laughed. And as he did, his glance lighted on the river, and he saw the river also flowing continually backwards, singing merrily. I read this one Saturday, and I just couldn't put it down. Not only did I read it, I had the audio version playing while I was reading it. And I was there. I was by the river with Siddhartha. I could see the water taking the stones and turning them to sand. I had a new perspective being 40 and fat that I didn't have when I was 20, but oh, what if I had read this when I was 20? What could have been? What would my journey have looked like? This book came alive to me, and it's helped me on my journey. I've read it twice now since the semester began. And I was wondering, Dr. Beck, in front of these witnesses, could I get extra credit for that I read this twice? In heaven, he said. So read the book. Later in life, you might need these stories when it's your turn to begin again. And then lastly, learn to recognize your own voice. In one of Paul's letters to the Corinthians, he said, when I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. And when I became a man, I put away childish things. I put childish ways behind me. Isn't that sad? Don't put away childish things. We read this scripture. So many people read this scripture and they quote Paul, many good Christians that I know. And they've put away childish things, including mystery and magic, mysticism. They've put it away. Don't put that voice away. You have a gift. It's probably why I'm scared of you. You have something I don't have anymore. I've got to muster it. You know, when I visit with my 19-year-old daughter, these are the statements she makes. She says, you know, Dad, I don't know. It's like whatever, you know. And that's the sentence, you know. And at first it bothered me, and then I thought, no, that's right. There's no definition to those statements. When my boys order in a restaurant, they still ask permission. Can I have a hamburger? They ask the way, and I say, I want a hamburger. You are still discovering what you want. Oh, that I was still discovering what I wanted. Still asking questions. Asking men like Dr. Beck and these other fine professors back here. You have this opportunity to learn from their wisdom, to learn from their experience. Ask questions, but keep dreaming. Your life is not defined, and that's a good thing. Listen to that voice. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because life holds for you some amazing things. Continue to dream, to discover, to start again as a little child, just like Siddhartha, new beginnings. Thank God for new beginnings. Read the book. Find your voice. Listen to it. Jesus said, unless you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Heaven's going to be one big nursery, playground. Stay young. You guys become young again and enter in. Blessings.